Coming up December 1st on the Whimsy Farm podcast, I speak with Chuck Collins, author of Burned by Billionaires: How Concentrated Wealth and Power Are Ruining Our Lives and Our Planet.
There's a segment of the billionaire class. I call them the sort of the fossil fuel billionaires, the wealthy who have made their money from big oil and coal and gas. And they are very specifically using their wealth, power, and position in companies to run out the clock, to to block alternatives. We should be talking a lot more about the role of the ultra wealthy in disrupting and burning our planet, and hold them to account before others have to make fundamental sacrifices. And even buying up mobile home parks, billionaire-backed private equity funds love a captive market. And we'll talk about this theme, but one of the investors says, owning a mobile home park is like owning a Waffle House where your customers are chained to the booths. They have nowhere to go. And so you can just keep raising their rents and squeezing them for more and more money. And that's the private equity hyper extractive model. And finally, there's all these billionaires from around the world bringing their wealth to the US because we've become such a desirable tax haven that, billionaires who've ripped off the people in their own countries are coming here and parking their money. And where do they put it? They put a lot of it in real estate. So you see these luxury housing, luxury towers in major cities. Uh, they're not homes for people to live in. They're like safe deposit boxes in the sky. Yeah, I think what we're seeing is a form of capture, billionaire capture of our democratic system. And it's clearly our elections, the ability to elect, affect who gets elected, who even gets to stand for election. Candidates have to go through an informal process I call the wealth primary, where they stand before the donor class and decide who's viable. The voice and vote of ordinary people has been diminished. And I think that's the big consequence. We've all been robbed of our sense of agency and vote, um, to the point where almost no legislation passes unless there's a faction of billionaires who back it. But actually see a lot of cracks and cleavages in the coalition that elected the current president. For instance, I live in a rural area too, where there's a lot of farmers who voted for the current president, and they're kind of like, I'm not sure I bought the right package here. I might return it. Uh, and
Hmm.
whether it's between the tariffs or having their workers abducted or just seeing what's happening to food prices, that's not, money not going to them. And I do think that we're going to see a big shift in the short term because more and more people are going to start to run for office saying, I'm supporting an economy that works for everybody, not the billionaire class. And they're going to break through this kind of phony populism like, okay, yeah, we'll throw you a crumb. We'll eliminate taxes on tips and tipped wages or something like that. That's like a morsel being tossed to working people. But I think it's important for each of us to talk to our neighbors and talk about the ways that each of our lives are being burned by billionaires, are being touched and worsened by these inequalities. And then I think we need to imagine, envision, and participate in campaigns that reduce concentrations of wealth and make investments in things that improve everyone's lives. So, of people who are saying we have two huge problems: this huge imbalance of extreme wealth inequality and this climate crisis. And they're kind of like the harm next to the fix, the poison ivy that's going to irritate you next to the jewel weed that's going to heal the poison ivy. I encourage people to join the satirical resistance. You may have noticed on No King's Day or out in Portland, Oregon, that people are responding to sort of state repression with a sense of humor and dressing up as frogs. And well, there's this effort called Trillionaires for Trump. You may remember Billionaires for Bush from a couple decades ago. Well, Trillionaires for Trump is similar. There were at the No Kings marches, there were cadres of Trillionaires for Trump out marching, kind of carrying funny signs and taking the kind of message and taking it a little bit over the top. And for instance, they have a healthcare campaign called Go fund yourself. If you're discouraged and you want to, but you have a theatrical bent, that might be your way to plug in and be civically engaged.
I
And
agree. I think that's really a hopeful trend. I saw it even in this little town of Milan. There were unicorns crossing the street during the No King's Day and lots of people in inflatable costumes. And it's a smart tactic and it's a joyful one. So I hope we see more about it, and I bet we will.
yeah, and it is a form of power. When you feel powerless to make parody of things that are happening that are unthinkable is a way to say, keep your spirits up and exercise your power.
Episode 16 of the Whimsy Farm podcast streams December 1st on my YouTube channel, Carolyn Crane and Whimsy Farm, on my website, whimsyfarm.net, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
whimsyfarms.net